You have to plan very well. You have to have a flight plan. You have to have everything. Then you have to have backups and stuff like that. I mean, pilots can get sick. Things can happen. You have to train well. You can't suddenly pilot it. You have to go down the runway. Certain speed you have to take off, otherwise you'll hit the wall. I mean, there's actually a specific speed apparently in aviation. And once you take off, there is this aviation thing that they say to aviate, communicate, and navigate, right? So, or aviate, navigate, and communicate. So, aviate is you have to keep stable. You cannot be always uh, in a in a situation where you have too much turbulence. You have to navigate because you have to see where you get to the final destination, and you have to constantly communicate, whether it is with the passenger, the ATC, etc., with all the stakeholders. Because if they don't understand the articulation of your vision and where you're going, and they're not inspired, then nobody is going to, it's just a paycheck that one gets up in the morning and comes to. You're not going to get anything done, which is extraordinary. One of the problems that we find and what has really helped me in a very short, in a nutshell, is the entrepreneurial mindset, or even in large companies or firms, right? Fundamentally, it's because it's hard to get things done, and that getting things done is an important aspect of how you go about it, right? So the mindsets are two or three, right? So one first, and maybe one of my early bosses told me this when I was in a large company. I was in a bank actually, and my boss's boss also said, you need to think of your own P&L, right, or profit and loss statement, right? What do you get versus what do you give?
Yep.
It's a very philosophical and question if you actually get down to it, but you need to constantly think about that as a professional, because sometimes we get into this mindset of that we are entitled to things from companies, from firms, from our employers. But what we do, I mean, and I find so many people who come and say, so what do they want to achieve in the next few years is learn this, learn that. I mean, which is fair. Learning is what they're doing, but how are they contributing to the business? Right? Because eventually firms and companies are running businesses, right? And that needs to run. So that's the first thing. Like, how do you look at your own P&L, right? Second, very importantly, is to roll up sleeves and get to the most important things, right? And do it for purpose. So, for example, and if whether it's small or large corporations, people will align if you have something specific, right? If it's just for generic, theory, nobody's going to really be very excited about it. For example, I was a pretty junior or a mid-level person when I actually joined consulting, and I had to make some changes in the HR policies and including compensation, etc., because we were doing a differential sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And I actually, because I was passionate, and I think there was value, I started delivering on getting quick wins. That's another important mindset, right? To show indications that it will work. I could actually go to the head of HR of the entire firm and then actually have a conversation, right? I mean, and there was no need for that to happen, but things will happen, whether it is large or small organizations, whether they are more structured and bureaucratic or less. If you have a specific plan and it's not generic, and it's not like we say in MBA type presentations. Secondly, you have some proof points to say that it will work and that you are the right person to do it, right? That you will make it work.
Absolutely.
Because that's a challenge that often happens, right? So, but eventually, when you have large teams, you need to look at it very differently.